Okay, welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's Fire Knight 013, Fire Knight 13, or Fire Knight to my friends, and I am lately. I've been having difficulty motivating to record various reasons. Um, Mostly because I've had some issues with updating my recording software and playing games on a recordable device, or at least an easily recordable device, because I have game capture cards and equipment, but uh, just I'm not the most technically savvy person to be doing some of the stuff that I want to do, and two, I just don't have time. Life and other things, my primary job gets in the way. So anyway, so I decided to start a series, which might get me back into recording. We'll see how it goes. But I wanted to start a Let's Talk series, and I wanted to begin honestly with the game that really started my gaming life, if you would. Of course, when I was young, I played Atari. Yes, I'm that old. Um, and with Pong and Tank and those kind of games. And I remember playing Pac-Man on Atari, and even Donkey Kong, which was one that I still have a lot of these Atari cartridges laying around somewhere, put up with very little access to. But honestly, I didn't become a gamer. This is something that I would actually state as a foundation for where I became a gamer when Legend of Zelda came out, the original game. Um, you've seen it, um, and let's just give it the old nostalgic moment that it has. Um, this is when I became a gamer. Honestly, it is the one game that I can point back to and say this is when I really, you know, got into gaming and wanted to play. The fascination I had of the great enemy Ganon, the collection of the Triforce, um, everything revolving around this game is still what I go back to, and I still play it. I don't play it nearly as religiously as I used to, but I still play this game. It is inevitable that I will continue to play this game. In fact, I'm looking at some of the equipment that in my current new game, because I haven't played it in a while, that I'm like, oh yeah, I need to get this, and I need to get this, and oh, I got to go to this. The I even forgot about this. The Book of Magic, for example. I mean, just some of these things that I just love about this game altogether. Um, and so to continue the conversation, the new game is coming out. It's called Tears of the Kingdom, um, and because I honestly didn't, I didn't get a Switch until 2 years ago. I didn't really decide to get back into the Legend of Zelda until just recently, because the Tears of the Kingdom were coming out, and I saw the success of Breath of the Wild from afar. I didn't play it. The last Legend of Zelda I played, and I still have it, it's a Wii game, was Twilight Princess, and I still enjoy that one. I just could not get into the Wii controller, is one of the reasons that I didn't really get deep into playing that one. But and if they ever brought Twilight Princess to Switch, I would get it immediately. pretty much immediately and start playing it again because I didn't get that far in the original um, Wii because at the time I was really into MMORPGs, specifically a couple of them that you know, World of Warcraft was, of course, big at the time. I'm trying to think of the other one that I was playing. Because World of Warcraft never obsessed me like it did with a lot of people. I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I played it like crazy. Yeah, I almost said played the crap out of it, but oh, I just said it anyway. But Legend of Zelda uh, was really the game that got me into gaming, and I really thought about honestly thought about getting Skyward Sword because I've seen the history. Let's just open it up and take a quick look. Uh, let's see what it says here. Uh, yes, right here, Skyward Sword. It is the foundation, the initial. It's when everything was created and how Ganon come about. Uh, it was the legend, if you would, begins with Skyward Sword, and I'm like, man, I really should get Skyward Sword. Well, because Nintendo games, if you don't know, Nintendo games hardly ever diminish in value, at least according to Nintendo. And if you want Skyward Sword, you're going to pay $60 just like you would if it was brand new. Um, Not my favorite aspect of Nintendo. The lack of uh, I don't know how would I say realistic assessment of the value of their games. But I do understand it. I do. I really do because right now, and even in the last several months, I have considered. I really have considered buying Skyward Sword. I considered buying Breath of the Wild. And let's just jump on up here to Breath of the Wild. So let's go through this. This is showing a timeline, but this is not the main timeline. If we really get into okay, what is the official timeline? Well, let me see if I can open that up. Hold on. Now, this is not the official timeline. This is a timeline, and I don't know if this was fan created or if this is just uh, a creation by someone somewhere along the way that explains everything. But here's Skyward Sword. This is when everything began. This is the Minish Cap, Four Swords, and Ocarina of Time, which I'm not quite understanding how Four Swords fits into this here because I didn't play Four Swords. That was a GameCube game, I believe. Um, and I did not get quite as deep into. I was out of gaming at the time. I had a bunch of life stuff going on. I was not a gamer all of my life. I've been a gamer since, but I have not been a gamer all of my life. Well, anyway, according to this, there was a time split uh, during the Ocarina of Time or after the Ocarina of Time. It changed everything. Um, and that's where this became a link to the past and all this Link's Awakening timeline. I like to call it the Link's Awakening timeline because this was one of the more popular games that came out. It points back to A Link to the Past, which if you remember that one, it was Super Nintendo, I believe, game. Um, it might have been an N64 game. I get them confused a little bit. But then over here, you've got the Majora's Mask timeline, which also includes what I thought was the Four Swords. I think it says the Four Adventures. Yeah, that this is the best graphic I could get on this particular thing. But it also includes the Twilight Princess. And so this timeline I get sort of. There's very few games in it. There's this new game that I didn't play called Hyrule Warriors. And then this is the original Legend of Zelda here. I don't know why it's got the Japanese characters and the Hyrule Fantasy um, pretext there, and why it doesn't just say Legend of Zelda? Because even in the Japanese, if I remember it correctly, now maybe I'm wrong in my memory, but I don't remember this being the way they did Legend of Zelda. Now this may say Zelda. I don't know. I don't know Japanese, but if I remember it correctly, it said Legend of Zelda in some format. But I'm not sure what the logo is there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm not here to debate Japanese because I'll lose. But and it kind of began with Windwalker. Uh, I don't remember Phantom Hourglass. I'm sorry, I don't remember Spirit Tracks. But then Final Fantasy. I mean, not Final Fantasy. The Legend of Zelda. Wow, I saw fantasy. My brain just shifted gears there. And then Adventures of Link. Well, then the timeline unified here. Now, um, what caused the timeline to be unified was the Age of Calamity, and I love that they did this. I love that they did this split because there's so many different stories and they told different stories about Link and Zelda. In some cases, Link and Zelda are romantically involved, while in others they're just childhood friends and all these other things. So you had a lot going on here, during all of this. But then you get to the Age of Calamity, which unified the timeline and brought uh, uh, Ganon to become more of a dark entity that has been reincarnated and you know uh, uh, rejuvenated multiple times. Um, I'm trying to remember where, but the point is, okay. Let's get back to the point. This, of course, it lists as Breath of the Wild, when in fact Legend of Zelda sequel to Breath of the Wild is called Tears of the Kingdom, and that is kind of where we are, where it sits. Um, so with and that was potentially just a fan made timeline, but it is the best one I found. You could argue that some games go in different timelines and all the other things. I'm sure. I'm not too worried about most of that. The major games, the main games that are in there, fit where they fit. And if you play Breath of the Wild, you find these artifacts that are referring to the legends of the split timeline. And those artifacts and things. And I have not played all the way into Breath of the Wild. In fact, I'm still in the beginning uh, of it to really pick it back up. But I'm loving the story of it. Um, I'm hating the weapon degradation system, and I'm finding that a lot of people do. Uh, so at least I'm not alone. But I am finding that, yeah, there's no real reason for me to save a good weapon. Just use it, and when it breaks, it breaks. Uh, I can't stress enough how um, what's the term for disillusionment of your immersion, whatever that is, that takes so much away from gameplay when you're using a weapon and then suddenly it explodes in your hand. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. But they made it. It's still a wonderful game, but it is horrible because it's a fighting game. I mean, in my opinion, if you want to create a degradation system, that's fine. I can kind of get having weapons deteriorate. That there's nothing wrong with that because in real life they do, and I understand that they want to bring some sense of realism to the game or whatever. But realistically, even a broken sword can be mended. It's not what it used to be, obviously, and even a reforged sword is never going to be the 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 amazing sword it once was. But also the idea that a sword can be easily broken is stupid. Um, if you watch any channel that talks about swords, and now I watched three or four, but of course I watch one fairly religiously, and I'm going to give shameless plug every now and then to some games and stuff throughout this talk series. But Shadiversity is one of my favorites, and he goes deeply into uh, how swords are crafted and swords are used, and why this sword is better than this sword. And you can look at some of his sword reviews of people who still make swords, and he reviews them. They're all great. What he never says in that whole thing is the sword that you use, if you use it to a certain point, it's completely useless. Because very few swords can be deteriorated to the point of complete uselessness. And that's something that I just can't fathom why they would create a system where a sword would just explode in your hand. And of course, there's also other weapons that you use along the way. I mean, I've got a pitchfork right now. I mean, it's like, well, okay, whatever. Um, and you pick up weapons all throughout the game. So whatever level of creature that you're fighting, generally speaking, you're going to get a sword that can fight that creature. So as long as you can beat one of the three or four creatures that you're fighting, you're going to get a weapon that can probably take them. As far as I can tell so far. Now I realize that I have not advanced the game beyond into boss fights and things like that. So take what I'm saying for a grain of salt in that regard. But I do like Breath of the Wild. I think this game has really got me back into the idea of Legend of Zelda, uh, and I'm enjoying it immensely. Um, it is definitely, there's definitely parts of it that I wish were were easier to deal with. The 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 system of advancement. I for example, when I first got into it, I tried to go to one of the temples, and it seems to have been the last temple that I tried to go to first, because I was moving right to left instead of left to right, which is very odd I'm pretty sure most of the developers are Japanese, and they would actually choose a left to right format. Um, but it makes sense, like, because even their uh, words are somewhat read left to right. I just didn't think about how you would advance a game and go to places in the world. Because when you're looking across the world, this is what I'm talking about. You go to the temples here, here, and here, and I just didn't think about the fact that's how I should have went there. How I should have traveled there on the Great Plateau, and yet that's what I should have done. So so I went up into the mountains like that, and I was freezing to death every time I turned around. So I you know, I was like, what is wrong? Why am I not getting there? Um, but then I found, well, a couple things. I found out the amiibos. Let me go ahead and click on that. I have no idea what some of the website is going to show me. Um, I found out that the amiibos really give you a lot of food and things, and then once I figured out how to cook, that was a process. You got to put the stuff in your hand before you cook it. Um, so I walked up to a fire, and the only thing I could do was sleep, and I didn't quite understand how to fix that problem. Um, but once I found out how to cook, and I still don't think I've completely understood the art of cooking in this game, but I figured out that the cooking helps to replace your health, which is not my favorite. It's not one of my favorite uh, healing systems either. But because it harkens back to uh, Skyrim, where you just pause the game, and if you're getting your butt kicked, you just kind of pause the game, and then you eat a feast while the creature is paused in midair with his weapon raised and he's about to slam down on you, and then you engage in a sudden feast to heal all of your wounds, and then when you unpause, you can take the hit and keep on fighting. And it's not whatever. I really wish some of these games would consider a more realistic approach to wounds, to fighting, to healing. It doesn't have to. You don't have to have a perfect system. I mean, fantasy is fantasy. You could create potions. The shameless plug. I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy, and the potion system in there is pretty good. It could use some tweaking, but it's still good. And just a potion, a quick potion to heal, your wounds is is great. Um, but go back to say what was the name of that game? Fallout game, New Vegas. You go back to New Vegas, and they kind of went the opposite direction, where you eat something, or you did, I can't remember how you did it, but you took something to heal, and it healed over time, and it made your healing, slowly, your slow healing faster. Uh, okay, that's a thing. Uh, but again, let's can't we find a balance? Let's find some kind of balance. Um, One of the best healing systems I enjoyed um, was I told you I got into MMOs a lot. Was Star Wars Galaxies, um, where you got damage, and then you had wounds, and wounds would decrease your health bar to where you couldn't actually take the heal. You couldn't actually be healed because it blacked out your health bar, where that was the end of where you could heal to. So you had to have a wound healing process as well. Now that was I liked that idea. The way they manipulated the healing and the wounds was left a little bit to be desired, because your equipment affected that tremendously, and I don't know that I liked that idea, but but it allowed there to be immediate damage, taking a hit and not taking like permanent damage, and then there was permanent damage, which you also had to deal with in another way, and it took a little more time to heal the permanent damage than it did the immediate damage. And that's something that I like, that kind of system. Um, I thought that was neat way to do things. And their weapon degradation system was also um, a little bit better, because you could, your weapons would degrade to the point to where their attacks would be less effective, but it would still be an attack. It would still be a useful weapon item. It would not be sitting there doing nothing. you know, and or in the case of the Breath of the Wild, it wouldn't explode in your hand either. Uh, but that's my Let's Talk for Legend of Zelda. I may have another one since I have been playing um, Hogwarts Legacy. That may be my second iteration in Let's Talk because I can pump these out pretty quick, and it allows me to do something for my channel, put it out there, kind of talk about it, get your thoughts. I really want comments. I really do want comments. You guys can tell me what you think about what the games that you play. If you enjoy the game, if you are looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom, any of these things. If you want to talk about Legend of Zelda, put it in the comments. I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your time. And we will see you next time. This is Fire Knight 13 signing off, wishing you all Godspeed. Thank you.